guys, welcome back. Episode 2 in 2021 with Spring Fever Custom Calls. I promised last week that I was going to do a mini series on how to do your own do-it-yourself out-of-state turkey hunt, and this week we're going to jump right into it. Now, this series is broken into 5 different parts. I've got it broken down into picking a place to hunt, lodging, food. 4th one is gear to bring, and number 5 is time management. Now, this video could be an hour long if I put all 5 of those together, but I'm going to try to break it down into a more consumable way and be a little bit easier to process along the way. So let's get started. The first one is picking a place to hunt, and this seems kind of elementary, but it is a massive decision. And to help narrow that down, I'm going to go through some things that I walk myself through every spring and trying to decide where am I going to bag that out-of-state longbeard at. Now, the first one is, what are you trying to achieve? So that's the very first thing I ask myself, or I ask Dad, or we ask EP. What do you want to get out of the hunt? Now, for some people, that may be starting a Grand Slam. In my case, I'm a little bit different. I'm just trying to make my season longer. Here in Indiana, we only have a 2.5-week season, and it comes in late, okay? Our season comes in at the end of April, and again, it's only 2.5 weeks long. So, and that's just not enough time for a guy who loves the turkey hunt. So I'm trying to get the most out of my spring and just make my season a little bit longer and have a little bit more fun. So that's what I'm trying to get out of in the reason why I travel hunt. So those are kind of the 2 main reasons. Now, let's look at scenario 1. If you're starting a slam, what I would recommend is just to figure out what subspecies do you want to go after. Maybe you've got a certain reason why you want to chase Rios, or maybe you love the white tips of a Merriam and you want to try to tackle that quest. Either way, what I would do is I would pull up an NWTF map, species map. They put them in the magazines, they have them posted online, but pull up a species map of the wild turkey, and it tells you exactly where the pockets are of each subspecies. Now, some of these birds are pretty confined in certain areas, so that's the reason why you definitely need to look at a valid source like the NWTF and figure out where that subspecies is located, and then that will narrow it down into what states those pockets are in, and then you can start chasing your birds that way. Now, once I have that narrowed down, I know that I'm going to go for a Rio, or if I'm going for a Merriam or whatever, I look at that map, and the first question is how can I make the most of my time, and where is the closest location there is to that subspecies, okay? Travel time is the biggest killer in a turkey hunt. Let's be honest. Time is the biggest constraint that we have in the spring turkey woods. Not only in the spring turkey woods, but on an out-of-state hunt, time is the biggest constraint. You've only got so many days to get it done. You've only taken off so many days from work. Your wife is only giving you so many days to be gone. So that is a major thing. If you're spending more time on the road than you are hunting, you have an issue. So travel time is a massive portion of this. So that's not the only answer. I mean, you also need to look at bird populations and things like that we're going to get into later. But that's the first thing I look at is if I'm going to this subspecies, what's the closest one? Because I want to spend my time in the woods and not traveling, okay? Now, after I look at that, I want to look at tags. Guys, non-resident tags, if you haven't looked, are not cheap. Okay, in most cases. There are some states out there that's not bad at all. But you need to look at what you can get the most out of your money for. For example, Indiana for a non-resident is probably not real appealing because we only have a 2.5-week season, and a non-resident tag is pretty pricey. And on top of it, we're a 1-bird state. So you're spending a lot of money, a lot of time, and you're only going to be able to harvest 1 bird. I always look to get the most out of my money. So if I can travel 2 hours, in a different direction, but be able to buy 2 tags or possibly 3 tags, I'm getting more for that non-resident license. So that's something to look into. And then the reason why I travel, like I said, is to lengthen my season. I don't care what species it is. I just want to hunt. So I'm looking at states that I can go to that, are relatively cheap, or the price per tag is cheaper than going to one where a non-resident tag is outrageous, but it's only a one bird harvest. So the other thing to look at in tags is availability. A lot of states, and the reason why I picked to do this video now sooner than later, is that states are starting their draws. If they're a draw state, you need to get your applications in and get those, secured. Doesn't mean you're going to get drawn. It's just the way it is. Find out when their tags go on sale. Sometimes you can just walk in and buy a tag over the counter, depending on the state. Doesn't matter. They don't have a limited quota, but several states do. Wisconsin does their draw in December. They did their draw already. Now, most times if a state has a draw like that, they're selling a certain amount of tags. They have a quota. If they don't meet those quotas, typically they will sell over-the-counter leftover tags. But they may be different per region that you're in of the state, because some states sell them by region. You need to do your homework and check and make sure that if you drive 7-8 hours to a state, that you can purchase a license once you get there. So ask yourself what you want to get out of it. Look at the travel time on the highway. And then third, you're looking at the tags. Okay? Now, once you get that kind of narrowed down, you've narrowed it down to pretty much a state. If you're looking at the travel time by that point in time, you've narrowed it down to a state. But then the next biggest question is states are pretty good size, right? So how do you just throw a dart at a map and say, that's where I'm going? I'm putting all of my eggs, all of my money, all of my time, all of my effort into that one given point on a map. How do you decide that? Here's how I do it. Right or wrong, this is what I do. I pick up the phone and I call the state DNR, okay? They are the absolute nicest people to talk to, and I've never, ever had a conversation with one that was rude or whatever. They are super great people to work with and are full of useful knowledge. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, I can pull this stuff off the internet. Yeah, you can, but don't get consumed into bad data. I have people, email me all the time, say, hey man, I went and hunted here this year because I heard it was awesome, never heard a gobble, blah, blah, blah. Well, it may have been good back in 1997 when that person wrote that in that forum, but it may not be good now. Pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody who's made a career in managing wildlife in that area. Have some sort of dialogue made out so you know what kind of questions to ask, and that you don't forget a question that you do want to ask. Things that I ask are typically, what's your bird numbers like? Is your population up? Is it down? What region would you suggest for somebody who is coming from a long way? What specific area would you recommend? And typically the answer to that question will lead me closer to where I end up. They know, what public land areas are producing more birds each year. They'll say, well, such and such walk-in management area is always producing, a lot of harvest each year, blah, blah, blah. If they say something like that, I jot it down, and then I immediately pick up the phone once I'm done with them, and I call the office of that specific state park, wildlife refuge, whatever public ground it may be. I'm calling its specific office and then asking them more detailed questions like, how is your hatch this year? In the past couple years, have you guys had good bird populations? Has your success rate been above 50%? I'm looking at targeting questions like that. Do you have a lot of opportunities? Is it hunted hard every single day? They will be able to answer those types of questions and determine whether or not really, if I want to spend all my time there in that specific area. The next thing, lastly, is I try to pick an area that when I'm looking at the map, whether it's an actual, just a map, state map, or if I'm looking on OnX or something like that, I'm trying to pick an area that has multiple public hunting opportunities close to the same region. And when I say close, I'm meaning within an hour and a half. Okay? Now you're probably thinking, an hour and a half drive? Guys, I'm willing to drive an hour and a half before sunrise if I've already spent 18 hours on the road just to get there to hunt a turkey, right? So another hour and a half, no big deal. I'm looking to put myself in the best possible scenario by providing myself multiple areas to hunt. Guys, you may roll into a public hunting area and they be overwhelmed with hunting pressure, and then that one's just not going to work. I'm not pulling into a spot if it's got 3 cars already parked in it. It's a waste of time. I'll drive down the road another 45 minutes or an hour, hour and a half to try to find a place that I'm going to have to myself and call it home for a few days to figure those birds out on that specific property. So those are some big key things that I would totally recommend doing if you're going to try and do this out-of-state hunt. Now, again, this is not for somebody that's planning on going to an outfitter and hunting at an outfitter out of state, because the stuff that I'm going to cover in these next 4 videos coming up are things that they would already have tailored to and taken care of, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's great to be able to walk into an outfitter and enjoy that experience. It's a little bit more rest and relaxation. Enjoy that. It's great. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if I want to try and hunt as many states as I can each spring, I've got to do it in a way that I can afford to do it. And that's the reason why I try to doing it on my own and making the best out of what I got. So those are some key ways to try to dial in and focus your hunt and picking an area. Figure out what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, determine how much drive time you want or flight time. Then figure out, can you get a tag? If you can get tags, how many tags can you get and how much are they? Then contact your local DNR and start pinpointing where you're going to throw that dart on the map to determine where you're at. Now, guys, hopefully you guys got something out of this. Like I said, we've got a lot coming up with this whole mini-series, so stay tuned. Stop by the website, springfevercustomcalls.com. Check it out. We've got a lot of new stuff hitting the website every week. Be sure to check it out. And like we always say, put your next long beard on speed dial with the Spring Fever Custom Call. I'll see you guys next Sunday.